It is so easy to give away all your money while you're at an all-inclusive resort, especially when you're drinking and having a good time. But guys, remember, this is not why we're on vacation. We are here to relax. And actually, a lot of resorts, you're not supposed to tip. Like for example, at Sandals, this is their policy here. They have no tipping and employees can actually get in trouble for tipping. First off, I want to give you an example just how many people you're going to come in contact with. So as soon as you get off the plane, there is the person who organizes the shuttle orchestration. So you're going to find them. They're usually the person they say is in a flower shirt or whatever they say to go and meet that person. They're going to put you in contact with the shuttle driver. Now, this person you do not tip. Then you have the shuttle driver. Now, when you reach the resort, there's a lot of people there to greet you. At the desk, you do the check-in process. Maybe you're going to hold your bags for a while. Then once you're at the hotel, you're ready to go to the pool, right? So once you get to the pool, there's bartenders, there's servers, then you get food, again, I think you get the point. You're going to come across a lot of people, so let me break it down. I think for a lot of people, they feel pressured to tip when they don't necessarily have that money. And the whole beauty of going to an all-inclusive resort is that the idea is tips and everything are all included. So it's really up to you if you want to tip extra. If you don't feel like tipping, that's totally fine. Like so many people you will see not tip ever. I just want to give you a better idea of how much you really need to bring on your vacation versus like just spending so much money and then you go back home and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent way too much money. I shouldn't have spent all that money just giving it away to people I'll never see again. So the first one is going to be the budget version, especially when you don't necessarily need to tip versus when you should be tipping. And then at the end, I'll leave a little screenshot for you so that you can know like what the norm is like right now these days. So first off, you land at the airport. Now from here, you're going to go to the shuttle. You don't need to tip anyone until you are inside the shuttle and you have reached the resort. There's a few different tiers. So think of it this way, a shuttle driver's time is valuable. You might be their only person today. They might have a few other people that they need to like be back at a certain time, et cetera, et cetera. Either way, think of it this way. If you have a private shuttle all to yourself, maybe tip a little bit more. Maybe your bus driver is like giving you a tour of the land and he's kind of explaining like, this is where you get this is the liquor store, this is a good excursion to go on. If you have like a real talkative shuttle driver, then you're gonna wanna tip them a little more than someone who's just quiet the whole time getting you from A to B. On the other hand, you may be in a super packed shuttle, and they're making 3 different stops at 3 different resorts. So kind of play it by ear when you go to tipping. If you're in like a packed shuttle, I would say tip $1 to $2 per person. If you have a lot of bags, maybe throw a couple extra dollars. If there's like a decent amount of people in the shuttle, maybe you are all going to the same place, or maybe you're just making 2 stops, I would tip about $2 to $3 per person. And if you and your friend, or it's just you in the shuttle by yourself, I wouldn't tip more than $10. Really, it's up to you. Again, if they're being, personable and giving you a tour, it's kind of like a free tour guide if you think of it that way. But again, if they're just getting you from A to B, maybe just give them $5 or something. It's up to you guys, but they do spend a lot of their time working with you. So this is how I want you to think about tipping for the rest of this video. Like someone who is only spending a minute with you versus someone who's spending an hour car drive with you, it's going to be a different tipping tier. That being said, also, if someone's making you feel comfortable in a new country or a new place, they deserve more of a tip than someone like doing their basic job. For the check-in process, I'm going to skip it right now. I'll talk about it later on at the end, so make sure you stay tuned till that. But let's jump right into food because this is the next time that a lot of people get confused. So while you're at an all-inclusive, obviously you're gonna have all the food you want and all the drinks you want. So that means you're gonna come across a lot of people. So let's start with the buffet. Buffet is the easiest one. Generally speaking, you're just going to tip $1 per person. That's totally fine, guys. A lot of people at the buffet do not even tip at all. So this is the time, if you're gonna skimp out on a tip, this is the place to do it. Thinking in terms of time spent with you, something like a buffet, they're probably just going to give you a mimosa or a coffee, and then they're going to be going on throughout their day. Now, if you guys are like a party table or something and they're just like slinging you drinks, you're obviously going to tip a little bit more than you would if you're just there having a quick breakfast. A lot of times, you just need to get something to eat, so you're just running in there, grabbing something quick. So keep that in mind, depending on your experience at the buffet. If you're going there for like a sit-down dinner, then maybe tip a couple more dollars. If you're there for like 3 hours or something, but most of us are just in and out for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes to just eat really quick and keep it moving. Most all-inclusive resorts also have snack bars. So if you're that kind of person who gets in their head about tipping, you can just stop at a snack bar for breakfast or lunch. There's like no stress at all to tip. So that's just a straight up like grab a plate. It's usually disposable. You get your own drink. Like, it's really easy to just walk in and out and sit by the beach or whatever. And that you won't feel pressured to tip at all if you're one of those people who gets a little insecure about not tipping. Now let's move on to the a la cartes, where you're going to need a reservation to get into. So the whole idea of this is like a normal dining experience where you have your appetizer, your entree, your dessert. There's usually some sort of like a salad bar or something for you to go to. Here's an experience where you're probably going to be there for like an hour or 2 hours, depending on how fast the food service is. So you're going to be getting more than one drink, obviously. Maybe your water is going to be getting refilled multiple times. Maybe you're going to have a cappuccino or a fancy coffee or something. So at a la carte, I suggest tipping about $2 to $3 per person, depending on the service, of course. And if it's 2 people, I would say maybe like $3 to $5 is totally fine, $3 being your minimum. Next up, we've got bartenders. So there's a lot of functions going on at an all-inclusive resort. Like, some of them are bartending at a show. Some of them are outside, you're dancing and you just go to the bar to get a beer or whatever. You're seeing them for like a moment in time. I would say $1 every other drink, or you could take this opportunity not to tip, because there's so many people at the bar, they won't even notice that you're not tipping because they're just trying to get it moving. However, if you're sitting at a bar by yourself and you're just chilling and talking with the bartender, I would tip a little more often because you're the only one there and they're kind of entertaining you. So that's really up to you. You don't have to sit at a bar. A lot of times you can just grab a drink and go sit somewhere else on the resort property, like maybe in the lobby bar, or there's like a beach bar. The time I would say that you definitely should tip is when you're at the pool all day and someone is constantly coming around asking if you want more water or if you want a drink. They're going to like get to know you. They'll see you the next day and they'll be like, hey, what's going on? You know, like, servers are fun at an all-inclusive resort. Some of them are better than others, obviously. Some just come and take the order. Some will like entertain you for hours and you guys joke around and you just have a good time. So depending on that, just think of serving as a form of entertainment. On hotter days, they're not going to be as entertaining as other days. Well, actually, that's not true. I've had some really fun people on hot days too. But just think of it like that. Like, if you're spending all day with them at the beach and they're coming out in the sand and, you know, bringing your drink. Like, I've had servers come up to me in the water to bring me my drink. So obviously I'm tipping them versus just walking up to the bar and getting my own drink every time. Now, that being said, if you're with somebody for the whole day, after a couple drinks, maybe you could just give them like $5 or a couple dollars here and there every other drink. But what I like to do is, especially when I know the server because I have my spot at the pool that I'm going to every day, or I know the bartender, I'll just tip them big, like $5 or $10 if I'm there like all day, all day. I've been there all day, like drinking like a fish. Trust me, I've had those days. And you're probably gonna have one of those days too. Or maybe you're at the swim up bar for like 5 hours. Like, obviously you wanna maybe give them like $5, $3 to $5, or whatever you feel comfortable with. But that's one of those situations where it's gonna be a little awkward if you don't tip, because this person has really put in the effort for you. Even if it's just $1, whatever you can afford, this is the time to tip. Otherwise, get your own drink. And don't expect the server to keep coming around with water and things like that. This is the whole point of the all-inclusive resort, is to kind of just sit and chill and have someone wait on you. So I would say if you're going to tip, this would be the time to tip. And keep in mind that just like any other bar or restaurant, the shifts change. So if your server is there, maybe the breakfast person, and then they have someone who becomes the nighttime person, don't give like a huge tip to this person thinking they're going to be there all day, because they might not be. So the first day you're at the resort, just kind of feel it out, see how things are going, and go from there. Because there's nothing worse than when you give somebody a big tip and then all of a sudden you have a new server. It's like, okay, do they know that you have money and they're trying to get their thing out of you? Or was it really a shift change? You know, I don't know. It gets a little weird sometimes. That's only happened to me once, honestly, but I learned my lesson and I just kind of watched myself after that. I feel like food and beverage is the hardest thing. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below and take the time right now to hit that like button if that section helped, because I feel like I was rambling. But if you guys like this video, I'll know to like make more videos like this in the future where I kind of go more in depth, because the next ones are pretty easy, so I'm gonna breeze right through them. Now, if you're getting room service, think about what time of the day it is and how busy they're going to be. So are they like running around like crazy and you're trying to get your food, or is it the middle of the night and you're kind of like making them make you food at like 4 a.m. I've been that person before. It's fine. It's all included, guys. Remember, like, it's a thing. But sometimes when you order late at night, it does have an additional charge, which does not go to them. So keep that in mind when you're tipping, because obviously if it's 4 a.m. and they're doing that for you, you should probably tip a little more than if they're just going throughout their regular day routine. Something I love to do, and especially when I'm dating somebody at an all-inclusive resort, is order in. So we'll just be wearing our robes and we'll order like one of as many as we want. So because remember, the portions are kind of small at an all-inclusive because it is unlimited. So they'll start you off small just to not waste food. So generally speaking, I like to order whatever catches my eye on the menu, because I'm not gonna have them come to the room twice. When I do this, I tip $1 per plate. And at this point, I would say $5 would be the minimum, but it usually, like I said, it's $1 per plate. So I'll usually tip like $10, but you can get away with just tipping $5, it's fine. Moving on to the person who refills your fridge. If you need to call down for somebody to get you more beer or something, I would generally just give them $1. Same with housekeeping. I would give them like $1 per day if you can afford it. Otherwise, just leave $1 every other day or something like that, but it'll give them the incentive to get your room clean. I've tipped before even just $1, and I've had turn down service. So if you don't know what turn down service is, it's like when they come midday and they fold your sheets back. And then I noticed when I didn't tip at other resorts, they don't do that, but the moment you tip, they'll come back and do that for you. So again, that's just my experience. I'm not saying it's like going to get you turn down service every time, but it was really cute. She even put little like chocolates on our pillows. So you never know what you're gonna get for tipping a housekeeper. Also, they gave us so many towels, like so many towels. And speaking of towels, remember, if you call down for towels also, you should tip them $1. Of course, getting around the resort, a lot of the time you're going to be walking, but sometimes we're wearing heels and looking cute. We don't want to walk, you know. So that's when you're going to call for like a golf cart. For example, at the last all-inclusive I was at, they had a train that went from lobby to lobby, but then they also had golf carts that would pick you up at your room and bring you wherever you wanted to go. And this being said, you had different kinds of drivers. So of course, if there's one that's like jovial and is like, hey, I'll drop you off wherever, I would tip them, versus someone who's just taking you from A to B, or not even taking you all the way there. They just drop you off sometimes like close-ish to where you are. I don't know, it gets kind of weird depending on the hour of the night, but if somebody's taking the time to take you from A to B, I would definitely at least give them $1, especially if you called for them to come pick you up. If it's one of those things where they just kind of saw you going and they're already going in that direction, you can totally skip on the tip, but especially when you call them to come specifically for you, I would at least give them $1. And this goes back to the bellboy too, because when you check in, when you go back to the front desk, the bellboy will have your luggage waiting there. So if you don't want to tip a bellboy, you want to save money like that, you can just take your luggage and walk your way to your room. You don't need to take the ride. If you are going to take the ride, I would say tip him at least $1 per person. If you're not going to take the ride, you don't need to tip him at all. All he did was just like have your luggage on a rack, and he didn't do anything for you. So don't worry about it. Just take your luggage and walk yourself if you want to save that $1. But generally speaking, I think it's worth it to take the ride, because he at least shows you exactly where your room is, tells you all about the resort on the way there, and then you get an idea of what you're doing versus just kind of walking around aimlessly with your luggage when you're like antsy to like get food or get in the pool or even just get changed into a new outfit. So speaking of checking in, sometimes you have that receptionist who is so nice and you just want to like, thanks for welcoming me. Cause you know, sometimes it's been a long ride and you're just over being anywhere, and they just give you the wristband right away. You can immediately start your vacation. Maybe they're like, you know what? You're not supposed to check in until 3, but you've had a rough flight. We're going to go ahead and get you in the room now. Or you have something happen like the receptionist at the last place I was at, where she asked us if we were celebrating anything, and we said it was our birthdays. And you know, obviously they check your passport and things, so she knew we weren't like just making it up. And she was like, you know what, I'm going to give you a complimentary upgrade. We were like, what Thank you. She didn't even try to sell us on it or anything. So obviously we tipped her. I gave her $5 per person. This is really up to you. They don't expect like a tip. And again, you have to be careful with this because sometimes they get in trouble. So I would slide it in your passport, or when they like do a closed hand, don't be like flashy, like here's your money. Like do it on the sly for them when they hook you up like that. That's why usually I don't tip at all, because I never want to get anyone in trouble. But also if somebody hooks me up like that, I can't help myself. So I just, do a little slide it under kind of thing. Whenever you do services at an all-inclusive resort, it's usually a standard 10% tip. So that's like with the spa, or if you're renting out a bungalow with a server for the whole day, whatever the price is, I would do like a 10% tip for them. Of course, you can tip as much as you want, who cares? But some of us are on a strict budget, like myself. Again, these things are not mandatory. So if you're already paying extra to do them, you should be prepared to tip. Otherwise, just skip it all together, because it's going to cost you a lot more than just hanging out at the all-inclusive. So this topic, I'm curious what you guys think. So leave a comment below if I'm wrong. But I've never tipped a concierge before, even if they set up my dinner reservations and they set me up for an excursion, because hear me out. The way that I think of it is, if they're setting me up with an excursion, they're probably already getting a cut for that, having sold me the excursion. So why should I tip you on top of that? That's my opportunity to save some money, because I'm already spending money on an excursion. But also, I've never had that like butler experience. That's like luxury travel. I wouldn't even get into that. Obviously, you would be tipping them, but I don't do any of that stuff. So the concierge in my interaction is strictly like, I need to go here for dinner. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm taking this excursion. How do I get there? So I don't see a reason to tip. Like, what do you guys think in that situation? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. And if you have any other questions about tipping, make sure you comment that below too. So whenever I travel, I bring singles, I bring $5 bills, and I bring $10 bills. Now, for example, something like a bar, or if I'm going to be at the pool all day, I don't really tip $20. $20 is a lot of money, guys. If you're going to tip somebody $20, they better be like, bring in the fire, because you do not need to be tipping $20. Again, this is my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you feel wrong. But a lot of times, especially as Americans, we think going to another country, they expect all this stuff from us. But you as a traveler have to realize there's different kinds of people who travel. If I had millions of dollars, I would be tipping everybody. Who cares? Like, hey, here you go. Here you go. Know who I am. I'm Emily. But I'm just a budget traveler, guys. Like, I'm just here to relax, have a nice vacation. I'm not trying to have everybody know who I am or anything. Like, I mean, usually people do know because I dance a lot, but that's beside the point. If you want to be the person that everybody knows who you are, there's plenty of ways to do that are free. Like dancing all the time or participating in any of the group activities, everybody will know who you are. Or just talking to everybody. I'm a social person, so I feel like my personality alone is enough for people to know who I am. I guess my point is, as Americans, we feel a lot of pressure to have to give other people our money, but they don't realize, like, necessarily in our day-to-day, this was a big deal for us. I saved months for this trip, or I saved years for this trip. So don't feel like you need to give someone that you'll never see again all of your money, because you don't need to do that. The whole point of traveling is just to get outside your comfort zone, enjoy yourself, and it's for you. And I know a lot of times we want to like help out people and things like this, but if you're not in a position to do that, don't feel like pressured to do it, and don't feel any less than yourself. Honestly, any tip is appreciated if you can afford to do that. If you cannot afford to do that, nobody cares, because they're gonna make money off the next person. Maybe they're not gonna serve you as many times as they'll serve somebody who tipped, but you have 2 feet. You can get up and get your own drink. You can get up and get your own food. So don't worry about having to tip. You do not have to tip. As I said before, here's the thing from sandals, you're not even supposed to tip. So just make sure you read all the rules and regulations before you go to an all-inclusive resort, because everywhere has a different policy. And now I'm just going on and on and on. But if you want more all-inclusive tips, check out this playlist here, because I am talking all-inclusive tips all month long, and I've got so much to say, as you can tell. So check out my other videos, and I will see you there.